We're now going to go to a member of the committee who's presenting on Member Day from the great state of Montana. Mr. Rosendale, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate it. Mr. Chair, my legislation, the Comprehensive Grizzly Bear Management Act, H.R. 1419, directs Secretary of Interior to promptly remove the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem population of grizzly bears from the endangered species list. This legislation provides Montanans with the means to safeguard their lives, their livestock, and their livelihoods from the growing menace of grizzly bears that have grown dangerously comfortable around human communities. Montana has the largest population of grizzly bears in the lower 48 states, including both the Northern Continental Divide and Greater Yellowstone populations. Despite the significant growth in these grizzly populations over the recent decades, they are still classified as a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. In 1975, when the grizzly bears were initially labeled as a threatened species, there were believed to be only about 800 bears in the lower 48 states. Since then, the grizzly bear populations have exploded. Today, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service reports that the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem alone in northwestern Montana is home to nearly 1,100 grizzly bears. The species has recovered to over 2,100 grizzly bears in Montana alone. While grizzly bear population is thriving, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service consistently revises recovery goals, thereby retaining federal management responsibilities. This trend sets a concerning precedent for other species under the ESA and diminishes the motivation for landowners and users to implement conservation practices. The human-bear conflicts have escalated as these bear populations have expanded into previously uninhabited areas, posing a significant risk to my constituents. Just 2 weeks ago, a grizzly bear was tragically struck by a motorist near Bonner, Montana. This incident marks the southernmost recorded case of a grizzly bear roadkill within the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem. As bears venture farther south beyond their established core zone in the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem, they are increasingly vulnerable to collisions with vehicles. This growing trend poses potential risk for both truckers and motorists throughout the state. Grizzly bears are predators. There are only a small handful of members on this committee that have grizzly bears in their districts, and it's extremely unlikely that the bureaucrats working for the government agencies headquartered in Washington, D.C. have encountered one either. However, these bureaucrats and certain committee members persist in offering insights regarding the consequences of retaining these grizzlies on the list, despite lacking firsthand experience or expertise on this matter. In 2022, there were nearly 150 confirmed or probable claims of livestock predation caused by grizzly bears in Montana alone, costing residents, farmers, ranchers hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even still, these numbers don't capture the total livestock predation, as it's impossible for ranchers to know if missing livestock has been eaten. It also does not begin to capture the human cost, the hours spent trying to protect livestock, the sleepless nights, and the fear of letting your children play outside. These predators don't just claim the lives of livestock. They are fully capable of killing or maiming people too. And these bears continue to expand outside of the recovery zones into the cities. The number of conflicts and encounters will expand with them. These animals, in many cases, have become habituated, which means that they are accustomed to and do not fear humans. This is the result. These are bear conflicts, okay? Encounters with humans. This is what it looks like. We've got a fellow who was down in Ennis. He was double mauled. He was mauled by a bear, went back to his truck, and it got him a second time before he was able to get back to his truck. This is another gentleman, Montana. You can see, almost sliced his ear off. Here's another gentleman. The reason that he has those bandages under his chin is because his chin is missing. The bear took the bottom of his jaw off. This is what happens when you have a startled bear and a human conflict. The bear always wins, and they leave terrible, terrible results behind. We have school systems now that are literally being forced to put fencing around the playground so that the children can go out and play because they have videotaped bears running through and around those playgrounds. Do we have to have a child scooped off of a playground and killed by a bear or mauled so severely that they're scarred for the rest of their life before this committee will do something about allowing the state of Montana to manage these populations? This bill does not call or wish for mass hunting of grizzly bears, but instead what this bill does do is ensure that states, not the federal government, are to manage the grizzly bear populations as best as they deem fit. Wildlife management practices have also drastically improved and evolved since the bears were added to the endangered species list. And Montana is widely recognized as one of the best wildlife managers in the world. And we have demonstrated that by the delisting of the wolf populations, which have continued to grow, increase, and yet we have managed them perfectly fine, keeping them off of the endangered species list. As long as the grizzly bear is designated as a threatened species in the Northern Continental Divide ecosystems, state management of the species is hamstrung, and my constituents can't defend their property or their person from these predators. The science does not support keeping the grizzly bear listed as a threatened species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service tried delisting the grizzly bear several times, but has been overruled by activist judges influenced by their liberal agendas. This is unacceptable and must be reformed. Thank you very much for your time today, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman for your testimony on something that you're obviously very passionate about, that I'm, where I am on the issue and agree that the state of Montana could manage these bears. But as you pointed out, they're on the endangered species list. As we've often said, it's like Hotel California. Once you get on, you can't get off. And I know that you filed legislation. I know Ms. Hageman from Wyoming, who also lives in grizzly bear country, has filed legislation. And it's unfortunate that we can't make ESA work like it was intended to work. So I'm in support of trying to change the law so that it works for the grizzly bears and for humans. So appreciate you again bringing this important issue to the forefront.